The Story of Mulan, a Chinese legend retold by Vanessa Wright. Mulan's nimble fingers danced over her weaving. Slowly, two glittering eyes began to gaze out from amongst the threads. Mulan's younger brother watched as the rest of the mighty dragon took form in the cloth. Suddenly, he cried, "Roar! Roar!" and ran away as fast as his chubby legs could carry him. Laughing, Mulan jumped up from her stool and chased the boy around their family's home, through the courtyard, across the road, almost to the bank of the Yellow River. "Got you!" cried Mulan, hugging her brother close. "I caught a dragon!" "Roar!" he shouted, struggling to free himself. "Roar! Roar! Roar!" At that moment, a guard of the Emperor's soldiers cluttered up the lane. Mulan and her brother fell silent. Soldiers like these had never come before to the quiet village. For a moment, Mulan let go of her brother. He darted out into the lane, almost underneath the horse's heavy hooves. "Roar! Roar!" he cried. The lead soldier reined in his horse. He picked up the little boy off the ground with one hand and snarled,
"So, little dragon, are you coming with us to fight the enemy in the north?"
Mulan approaches the soldiers. "I am sorry my brother got in your way," she said. "Please put him down."
"What's this? A nightingale, too? Beware your tongue, nightingale. My sword is sharp," the lead soldier growled. The other soldiers looked uncomfortable. Mulan's little brother began to whimper. "Put my brother down," said Mulan. The lead soldier narrowed his eyes and directed a cold, hard stare at Mulan. Mulan stared back. She did not flinch. The soldier's horse snorted and pawed the ground. After a long moment, the soldier dropped the boy. "You won't fight, boy," he sneered, "but your father will." He turned to his troop. "Ride!" he bellowed, and the soldiers cantered away. Mulan's little brother stood up and wiped the dust off his face. "What do they mean about father?" he asked. "I don't know," said Mulan, "but I'm going to find out." Mulan took her brother home and then ran to the marketplace. The soldiers had posted 12 scrolls. People pressed and pushed to read the scrolls. Their sobs and cries filled the air. "What's the matter?" Mulan asked an old woman. "What is going on?" "There is a war in the north," replied the old woman. "The Emperor has ordered every grown man to go and fight. The names of men who must go are written on the scrolls." Mulan thanked the old woman and threaded her way through the crowd to read the names on the scrolls. The first name she saw was her father's. Mulan swayed where she stood. "Are you all right?" someone asked. "My father's name is on the list," said Mulan, "but he cannot go to war. My father is too old to fight." "He must go. If he does not, the Emperor will punish him and your whole family."
"Surely there's another way."
"If your father wishes, he may send your older brother in his place. Then he will not have to fight."
"But I have no older brother," thought Mulan. She turned, pushed her way out of the crowd, and ran from the marketplace. At the edge of the river, she cried until she had no more tears. She splashed some water on her face, but when the river smoothed and showed her reflection, Mulan saw a strong face, a brave face. "A boy's face," Mulan breathed. That night, Mulan knelt before her parents and told them of her plan. "I will dress as a young man and go to war in father's place." Her mother wept. Her father argued, but neither tears nor reproach swayed the young girl. In the morning, she set out for the marketplace once more, this time to buy a saddle and a good, strong horse to ride to the war in the north. When she came home, she changed from her silk robes into her father's leather and iron armor. She swept up her hair and fastened her helmet. As she turned to leave her room, she glimpsed her face in the mirror. She brushed her fingertips against the cold glass. "Is that me?" she wondered. Mulan led her horse into the courtyard. Her father helped her tie his sword, spear, and shield to her saddle. Mulan's mother handed her a satchel bulging with food. "This should keep you safe until you arrive at Black Mountain," she said through her tears. Mulan's little brother ran up carrying a stick and wearing a cooking pot on his head. "I'll come with you, Mulan," he said. "I'll protect you. I'll make my dragon face and they'll all run away." The boy opened his eyes wide, showing his teeth, and stretched his fingers out like claws. Mulan gently said, "I know you would, brother, but if you scared them all away with your terrible dragon face, there would be no one left for our soldiers to fight. How could they win honor for their families then?" The little boy nodded solemnly. Mulan bid her parents goodbye. She mounted her horse and galloped away. She did not look back. Part 2. In the Shadow of Black Mountain. Astride her copper-colored horse, Mulan sped like a comet through the night. In the morning, she reached the army camp at the foot of Black Mountain. She marched up to the captain and told him the village where she came from. "Your name?" he asked, thumbing through the list. Mulan gave her father's name. "Very well," said the captain. "Your family will be checked off. Make camp wherever you wish. We ride out in the morning." Mulan breathed a sigh of relief as she spread her bedroll by the river. "They are safe," she murmured to her horse. "Somewhere along this river, my family is safe." Page 40. The girl sat down on her bedroll. The only sounds were the sad cries of birds and the rough laughter of soldiers. Mulan bit her lip. She could not hear her father's voice or her mother's slippers shuffling along the floor. She wished to hear her little brother roar just once more. Tears welled in her eyes. Angrily, she shook her head. "Little sisters have no place in an army camp," she muttered. I promised I would be the older brother, so older brother I shall be." She pulled her sword out of her belt, ran to the river, and tore off her helmet. Thick waves of smooth, shiny hair cascaded down her back. Again and again the sharp blade flashed in the moonlight until the lovely black tresses were nothing but a dark pile in the mud. Mulan ran her hand over her nearly bald head. Then for the last time she cried. But the river ran by, murmuring shh, shh, and Mulan fell asleep. The captain was true to his word. In the morning the company rode out to face the fierce warriors on the plain. Vultures shrieked overhead. The wind stilled and the air grew heavy. The horses swished their tails. Then a dark cloud appeared over the horizon. The clouds grew larger as it rolled toward Mulan and the army. But this was no storm. It was the terrible shadow of the enemy. The two armies faced each other on the plain. Mulan could see the warriors' faces. They had darker skin and different uniforms, but surely they too had mothers, fathers, and little brothers who roared. Who are these people? Mulan wondered. Will any of us ever see our families again? But then the drums were sounded. The battle cry filled her ears, and war sang in her veins. Without hesitation, Mulan spurred her horse and thundered into the fray. Those who saw Mulan fight that day whispered, "That soldier is a tiger. His sword has 10,000 silver claws." After the battle, the soldiers invited Mulan to eat with them. Her modesty and kind ways earned her much respect and many friends. In battle after battle, Mulan's bravery inspired fear in her enemies and awe in her comrades. And so she rose through the ranks like a dragon through the clouds, until at last Mulan was made a general. 10 winters had blasted the land with their freezing breath when General Mulan marshaled her tired troops. "We have fought for 1,000 years," she said to her soldiers. "But now our enemies flee before us. He hopes to hide in the mountains and regain his strength. He thinks we are too lazy, too clumsy to chase him in winter." Mulan paused and said firmly, "Someday this war will be over. Our names and deeds will be forgotten, but our glory will shine in the face of every man, woman, and child who loves our country and calls it by its name, from now until the end of time. Follow me, and we shall end this war and see the new dawn of our golden kingdom as the sun shines forth in spring." The soldiers cheered and readied their horses. As fast as flying, General Moulin hunted the enemy. The icy winds never blew without carrying the rattle of her soldiers' shields, and the sun never rose without reflecting off of Moulin's armor. At last, when the first trees burst into leaf, General Moulin stood atop of a mountain with her army behind her and looked at her country, free once more. In the distance she spied the river and thought again, "They are safe. Somewhere down that river my family is safe." She turned to her soldiers. "We have won," she said, and plunged her father's sword into the ground. Up and down the northern border, every soldier, captain, and general celebrated their victory. But as General Moulin sat down to eat with her troops, a man approached her. His face was hidden in shadows, but he wore the insignia of the emperor. "General," his voice rumbled, "you have been summoned." Moulin's return. Page 43. Moulin knelt before the emperor's throne. "He knows I am a woman," she thought. "I have disgraced my country and myself by lying, and now he will have me killed." The emperor studied Moulin. "Who is this general whom I have heard so much about? Who is at once both fierce and gentle, wise and playful, mighty and humble?" he wondered. He looked at Moulin's face. It was weather-beaten and wrinkled now, but there was something about it. Something. The emperor's jaw dropped slightly. He covered his mouth with his hand and pretended to yawn, but nothing could disguise the amazement in his eyes. The emperor coughed a little, and then he said, "General?" Moulin squared her shoulders, ready for death. "We are indebted to you for your brave service to our country. We offer you anything you wish for your reward. Name your heart's desire, and it shall be yours." Moulin replied, "To serve my country and my people is my heart's desire. I need of nothing more." The emperor raised his eyebrows and thought. Then he said, "We serve best when we serve for the sake of those we love. Go home, General, but say you will return when we have the need of you again." "But think my name," said Moulin, "and I shall come." The emperor gave Moulin the finest horse from his stables and sent a magnificent honor guard to accompany her home. After a long journey, Moulin and her soldiers rode up the dusty lane where she and her brother had played so many years ago. She dismounted and walked to the door of her home. For a moment she could not bring herself to knock. Then, just as she raised her head, her mother opened the door. Mother and daughter looked at each other. This day, both women's eyes filled with tears of joy. "I'm home," whispered Moulin. Moulin's father hobbled out the door. Moulin tried to give him back his sword, but he said, "No, no, it's yours. Keep it. You earned it." Moulin's little brother, grown now, almost a man, bowed to Moulin. She shook her head, smiled at him, and mouthed the word, "Roar!" The man blushed and grinned, then ran to the marketplace to fetch food and drink for a great celebration. Moulin entered her house and opened the door to her room. Nothing had been moved. The great general sighed and began unlacing her armor. Carefully she dressed herself in soft, colorful silks and wove flowers into her hair. She took a long look at herself in the mirror and laughed. Then, with her mother and father beside her, she went back out to face her soldiers. The men gasped. "Where is our general? Who are you?" "I am their daughter. I am your general. I am Moulin," she said. The soldiers shook their heads, amazed. Moulin's parents beamed with pride. Together they went inside to a marvelous feast to celebrate Moulin, their valiant daughter Moulin, their wise general Moulin, their hero for 1,000 years.